Have you ever noticed how the people you thought would always stand by your side sometimes become the very ones who walk away first? We often think of betrayal as a rare event, something dramatic and obvious. But in reality, betrayal can be subtle, quiet, and even unspoken. It can come from silence, withdrawal, or the simple refusal to see us grow. Today we'll explore the psychology of betrayal, not just as a painful wound, but as an essential part of our evolution. Carl Jung once said, "The most terrifying thing is to accept oneself completely." And perhaps the greatest betrayal is not when others abandon us, but when we abandon our own growth for the sake of keeping others comfortable. This video is about understanding why betrayal happens, how it connects to our personal growth, and how we can transform that pain into power. 1. People betray you when your growth becomes their mirror. Betrayal doesn't always come with loud arguments or broken promises. Sometimes it appears quietly, in the form of silence, distance, or indifference. When you begin to grow, when you start healing, when you decide to no longer live in the shadows of your past, your transformation acts as a mirror for others. Suddenly, your courage exposes their fears. Your progress highlights their stagnation. And without even trying, your light casts a shadow on the places they've been too afraid to explore. This is where betrayal can surface, not because you've wronged them, but because your growth reminds them of the choices they didn't make. Healing is not betrayal. Choosing yourself is not abandonment. Transformation is not a crime. Yet for some people, watching you evolve feels like a rejection of the bond you once shared. The truth is, growth changes relationships. And sometimes it's not about holding on, but about recognizing who is willing to walk with you into your next chapter and who isn't. 2. People betray you when you no longer need them. There's a paradox in human relationships. We long for love, yet often confuse it with dependency. For some people, their entire sense of worth comes from being needed. When you were broken, they were the ones who held you. When you were lost, they were your guide. But when you start to stand tall on your own, when you no longer rely on them for validation or survival, their role begins to feel threatened. Carl Jung spoke of the shadow self, the parts of us we refuse to acknowledge. For many, this shadow hides the fear of being irrelevant. So when you heal, when you rise above dependency, it can trigger resentment. Instead of celebrating your independence, they may interpret it as rejection. But love, true love, is never about control. It is never about keeping someone small so that we can feel important. Real love says, "I want you to grow, even if it means you outgrow me." Sadly, not everyone loves in this way. And that is where betrayal enters, not as your failure, but as their inability to love without chains. 3. People betray you because they can't control the new you. There's a comfort in predictability. When people know exactly how you'll react, how you'll bend, how you'll shrink yourself for them, it gives them a sense of control. But when you change, when you start saying no, when you set boundaries, when you embrace your own voice, suddenly, the old rules no longer apply. This disruption can feel threatening. Jung believed that much of human behavior is shaped by unconscious desires to control our environment and the people within it. When you step outside of that control, some will see it as betrayal, not growth. But remember, owning yourself will always feel like rebellion to those who once owned parts of you. Your refusal to be manipulated, your decision to live authentically, might cost you relationships, but what you gain is far greater: your freedom. Betrayal then is not always about disloyalty. Sometimes it's the natural response of those who cannot handle the weight of your liberation. And in those moments you must choose comfort for them or freedom for you. Or people betray you when you reflect their unhealed wounds. One of Jung's deepest insights was that we project our own darkness onto others. The parts of ourselves we cannot accept, we unconsciously cast onto those around us. When you grow, when you heal, when you embrace your own light, you also become a mirror for others' wounds. Your peace reminds them of their chaos. Your strength reminds them of their weakness. Your healing journey triggers their unresolved pain. And instead of facing themselves, many will turn against you. They will betray you, not because you are unworthy, but because you've unknowingly awakened the battles they've long suppressed. But here's the crucial truth. Their betrayal says more about them than it ever does about you. You are not responsible for their healing. You are responsible only for your own. By continuing to walk your path, you give silent permission for others to begin theirs, whether they embrace it or not. Betrayal as a teacher of growth. So what do we do with betrayal? We often see it as a wound, a scar, a reason to harden our hearts. But betrayal is also a teacher. It teaches us who is truly aligned with our journey. It reveals who can celebrate our growth and who resents it. It forces us to stop shrinking ourselves for the comfort of others and to start living for the truth within us. Carl Jung reminded us that the path of wholeness requires facing not just our light, but also our shadows. Betrayal is part of that shadow. It is the pain that pushes us towards self-acceptance, self-ownership, and self-love. If you've been betrayed, know this. It does not mean you are unworthy. It means you've outgrown the spaces where loyalty was conditional. It means you are stepping into a version of yourself that not everyone is ready to embrace. And that is okay. Because in the end, betrayal is not the end of your story. It is the beginning of your evolution. So let me leave you with this. Have you ever experienced a betrayal that ultimately led to your growth? Did it break you or did it shape you? Share your thoughts below. I'd love to hear your story. And if this message resonated with you, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more reflections on growth, healing, and the human journey.